Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. As chair of the Arab group for the month of May, I'll make a few opening remarks and then hand over to the representative of Palestine, Ambassador Majid Bamia. Following Wednesday's Security Council briefing on the situation in the Middle East, the Arab group stands united in our determination to mobilize and put an end to the catastrophic war on Gaza. The Arab group calls on the Security Council to take immediate action to bring an end to this horrific war and Israel's inhumane blockade on the Gaza Strip. Most urgently, we demand the lifting of all restrictions on humanitarian aid and its distribution based on humanitarian principles. The Council cannot stand by as starvation is used as a weapon of war. The Arab group categorically rejects Israel's proposed aid mechanism, which violates basic humanitarian principles and international law. At the same time, we reiterate our long-standing demand for an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire, and the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages and the release of detainees. The Council must shoulder its responsibility and take decisive action to this end, including by adopting the draft resolution on Gaza that is currently being advanced by the E10. As we look toward the upcoming conference on the two-state solution, co-chaired by Saudi Arabia and France, it is critical that member states take concrete actions to advance sustainable peace. We salute those countries that have recognized the state of Palestine and strongly encourage others to follow their example. Recognition is not just a symbolic gesture. It is a concrete step towards a just and lasting peace. The time for half measures has passed. The Security Council must fulfill its responsibility to maintain international peace and security and to protect civilians. Palestinian lives are not less valuable than any other lives, and the Council must act accordingly. I now turn to Ambassador Majid Bamia of the State of Palestine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here. And allow me at the outset to thank the Arab group for their relentless efforts over the last 20 months. I think at this point the situation does not need more description. It's enough to say Gaza for everybody to understand the human tragedy unfolding before our eyes, the constant bombardments against the population who has nowhere to flee, the dispersion, the displacement, the killing, the starvation, and the killing of children, and the starving of children. So we need to know what we are talking about. There is international outrage. But our outrage is not good enough. It's not good enough for the people of Gaza to know that the world condemns Israel's action, condemns these crimes, stands against them. We need actions. This is the responsibility of the Security Council, and we call on the Security Council to act as an Arab group. But this is also the responsibility of the other bodies of the United Nations. It's the responsibility also of the General Assembly. And it's the responsibility of all states to take the requisite actions, decisive actions that deter Israel from continuing on this course. Our demands are clear, they are simple, they are aligned with international law, and honestly, with the bare minimum of human decency. We demand an immediate ceasefire, and here allow me to commend Egypt and Qatar, who are standing beside us for all the efforts they have done in coordination with the US administration in trying to secure such a ceasefire. And we want to see in that context the implementation, the full implementation of Resolution 2735 of this very Council, which foresees an end to the bloodshed, release of hostages and prisoners, the massive entry of humanitarian aid, and the full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. And that should be the foundational rock on which we can build further an end to the assault against the Palestinian people throughout the occupied Palestinian territory. What we've seen, these scenes of displacement and killing in the West Bank, the breach of the sacredness of our holy sites, all these attacks have to cease. And Israel needs to understand it is not through massacres that they will achieve anything. We are confronted with an attempt to liquidate the Palestinian question by force, to end the Palestinian people and to end the Palestinian cause. And that attempt will not be successful. But we also, while Israeli government tries to portray the Palestinians as monsters, as human animals, which Netanyahu repeated again, we cannot also expect Palestinians to be superheroes, that they need to resist to all of this on their own, that they need to figure out a way to survive, that they need to figure out to stay in their land. Israel wants to convince them that if they want life, they can only find it away from their land. Our responsibility, our collective responsibility, is to help our people find life and liberty in their own homeland. And the second clear demand is the entry of humanitarian aid. It's impossible that 20 months later and 2 months after a total blockade, we are still talking about this. But Israel, after having used all the weapons of war, now weaponized starvation, now is weaponizing the distribution of aid to fulfill its objectives of displacing the Palestinian people, of stealing their land. We have a UN plan that we stand behind that provides all the requirements to provide aid to the people and deliver it throughout the Gaza Strip while providing all the safeguards that are required. There is no explanation to why we would need a different mechanism except that we want to prevent people throughout the Gaza Strip from receiving the aid they desperately need. These are our asks and they are very clear. إذا سمحتوا لي أريد أن أقول بعض الكلمات باللغة العربية، وأنا قد بدأت وقلت أن كلمة غزة وحدها تكفي لتعكس الواقع الأليم الذي يعيشه شعبنا. ونحن هنا أمام مجلس الأمن نطالب مجلس الأمن بأن يتحمل مسؤولياته، ونطلب أيضا من الجمعية العامة أن تتحمل مسؤولياتها، ومن كافة الدول أن تتحمل مسؤولياتها. السخط والغضب والرفض والإدانة والاستنكار غير كافي. عندما يقتل الأطفال، عندما يتم تجويعهم، عندما يحرق الناس، لا تكون الاستجابة فقط بالسخط والإدانة بل بالفعل. ومطلوب من كافة الدول أن تتحمل مسؤولياتها لردع إسرائيل ووقف الإبادة الجماعية بحق الشعب الفلسطيني، ووقف هذه المجاعة المفتعلة، مجاعة مفتعلة والمساعدات على الأبواب تنتظر للدخول وللوصول للناس. وطبعا الجميع هنا يحيي صمود الشعب الفلسطيني، ولكن ما هو المطلوب من دفنت أولادها، كل أولادها دفنتهم، أو من أب يقف عاجز أمام ابنه ولا يستطيع أن يعطيه لقمة العيش لإنقاذ حياته، ومن طبيب وقف أمام دبابة لإنقاذ حياة الجرحى ليجد نفسه اليوم في زنازين الظلام يعذب، إما يستشهد تحت التعذيب أو ينتظر يوما جديد يعذب فيه من جديد. ما هو المطلوب منهم أكثر مما فعلوا على مدار 20 شهر في مواجهة آلة حرب استعملت كافة الأسلحة في مواجهتهم بما فيها التجويع؟ ولذلك هناك مسؤولية أخلاقية وقانونية وإنسانية وسياسية بوقف المجازر ووقف التجويع. ونحن من هنا نطالب بوقف إطلاق نار فوري، وقلت أننا نحيي جهود قطر ومصر الموجودين معنا هنا اليوم بالتنسيق مع الإدارة الأمريكية في محاولات للوصول إلى وقف إطلاق نار، ونطالب وقف إطلاق نار يسمح بتنفيذ كافة بنود قرار مجلس الأمن 2735، والذي ينص بوضوح على وقف العدوان وكافة الأعمال العسكرية، وقف إطلاق نار تام، وإطلاق سراح الأسرى والمحتجزين والرهائن، وتدفق المساعدات الإنسانية، وينص أيضا على الانسحاب الكامل للقوات الإسرائيلية من غزة. محاولة إسرائيل بالحرب والعدوان والتجويع أن تقتلع الشعب الفلسطيني من أرضه يجب إفشالها، لا للتهجير ولا للقتل ولا للتجويع ولا للاستيلاء على الأرض الفلسطينية. ولدينا خطة عربية إسلامية تكفل إعادة بناء غزة دون تهجير أبناء شعبنا. ونطالب أيضا بتدفق المساعدات الإنسانية فورا وفق المبادئ الإنسانية، وندعم الخطة الأممية بهذا الشأن، ونرفض محاولات إسرائيل أن تستعمل المساعدات الإنسانية كوسيلة لتهجير الشعب والاستيلاء على الأرض. نحن أمام لحظة فارقة لمنطقتنا، وهذه المجموعة تريد أن ترى سلاما عادلا وشاملا في هذه المنطقة. أما الحكومة الإسرائيلية فمخططاتها حتى الآن واضحة، ما زالت مقتنعة أنها بالمجازر ستفرض إرادتها، وعلى المجتمع الدولي ككل اليوم وفي المؤتمر الدولي في شهر 6 أن يقف أمام هذه المحاولات، وأن يرد بوضوح بقرارات حازمة لكي يتحرر الشعب الفلسطيني. ليس مصير الشعب الفلسطيني جيلا بعد جيل أن يتعرض للمجازر ومحاولات التهجير والاقتلاع. ليس هذا مصيرنا. مصيرنا هو الحرية وإرساء السلام العادل والشامل في منطقتنا، بما يكفل الأمن للجميع، وبما يكفل السلام للجميع، وبما يكفل الرخاء للجميع، والشعب الفلسطيني لن يكون الاستثناء. وشكرا لكم.
Ambassador, it's Pamela Paul from U.S. News and World Report. Can Ambassador Abu Shahab answer the question? You mentioned the June conference. What kind of concrete steps are you looking at? And to Ambassador Al-Thani, if you could talk about the ceasefire and what prospects there are for the current proposal. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We are following the lead of Saudi Arabia and France, who have set an aim of having concrete steps that can bring us closer to a lasting peace. Obviously there are expectations of recognitions for the state of Palestine, but there are other plans that I won't speak to, and there are, of course, 8 working groups that are working on these concrete steps.
Okay. And Ambassador Al-Thani?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. The state of Qatar, of course, is engaged intensively together with the United States and Egypt to stop the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and end this war. Negotiations are ongoing on the current proposal, and we are very determined. The state of Qatar is very determined to finding an end to this horrific situation in Gaza.
Ambassador Shah, Abdelhamid Siam, Al-Quds Al-Arabi. You have been appealing to the Security Council to shoulder its responsibility time and again and again and again. And the Security Council did not. 4 resolutions and 2 in this GA and ICJ opinions, yet Israel continues with its massacre. What else the Arab group can do? What tools you have to make this enemy or this genocidal regime pay a price? So they will rethink. No Arab countries cut off its relation with Israel. No embassy was closed. No ambassador was withdrawn. So why Israel has to care for what the Arabs say or think?
Thank you. This is, of course, a responsibility of the international community, including the Security Council. The Arab group will, as it has for the past more than 600 days, been advancing and urging the Security Council to take action. Of course, the Security Council has adopted some resolutions. They haven't been implemented, but it does not mean that we stop and stand by and fold our hands. So we continue to do everything that we can to ensure that this catastrophic situation doesn't continue.
Ambassador, I have 2 questions to follow that. First, what kind of actions do you want to see the Security Council to act? Is that would be sanctions or army embargoes from the Arab group? Secondly, we know that there is a draft resolution by Algeria circulating. It's been quite a while. What stopped the Council from taking action of that draft resolution? Thank you.
What we cannot say, what we cannot accept, is that somehow these institutions or states are powerless. before these kind of actions and these kind of crimes. There are tools to respond to these kind of situations. We are hearing leaders considering or taking a number of decisions in the right direction, and we salute these decisions. But we need to reach a decisive level. It is clear that Israel, until now, does not feel deterred. You would have seen it in their statements or in their actions had they been deterred. So what we need are the actions that would deter them, that would hold them accountable for the decisions they make, and that would make sure that if they continue on this course, they understand the consequences that they will have to face, and that will be the only way for them to finally stop what they are doing. We here, our role as an Arab group in New York is to act with the Security Council, with the General Assembly, is convincing states. And there are other efforts in every capital going on, and that will hopefully culminate in part in the June conference and moving forward from there. But you asked about the June conference. The issue of Gaza is a part of that discussion, including the Arab OIC plan that provides a real-life alternative to the catastrophe that we see before our eyes. The issue of the legal obligations of third states is among the discussions we are having. The issue of a sovereign and unified state of Palestine. What kind of concrete commitments states are willing to take at this critical juncture? This is the life and future of the Palestinian people today and of our region tomorrow that is at play. So what we expect is we need to elevate our response, since till now the international response has not allowed to stop Israel from the mad march it is on, and that jeopardizes, that constitutes an existential threat for the Palestinian people, but it also jeopardizes the lives of hostages and prisoners. It jeopardizes the future of peace and security on our region. It jeopardizes everything that is fundamental in the rule of international law. So we will do our part here in New York in making sure that these bodies do not stay silent while a genocide is ongoing, while massacres are ongoing, while starvation is ongoing.
What about the draft resolution?
So the draft resolution is being discussed as we currently speak. It is an E10 effort, and you will see it once they complete the consultations they are doing. And as we said, our demands, I formulated them very clearly, and they were mentioned by the chair of the Arab group regarding the ceasefire and ending the starvation policy that is at play. And we said also we will go further in the General Assembly, and states have tools at their disposal. They cannot also hide from their responsibilities in using these tools. And as I said, we see an important conversation going on that needs to yield concrete results and concrete decisions that are of a decisive nature.
What is the Arab group's reaction to the Israeli announcement that it plans to build 22 settlements in the West Bank, and what impact is this going to have on the conference on a two-state solution and a two-state solution itself?
I think this is another decision that shows the rift between the Israeli government and the entire world. Settlements are illegal. They are condemned across the world. And again, maybe the international response, certainly the international response needs to be much stronger to prevent such policies from moving forward. We are in front of an Israeli government that has an extremist ideology, and I'll add to that the political ambitions of its prime ministers, very opportunistic ones, that are yielding what we are seeing in Gaza, a full-fledged assault against the Palestinian people, but also what we are seeing in the West Bank in terms of settlements, forcible displacement, and the will of Israel of this Israeli government is very clearly expressed by its prime minister. There is no Palestinian state. There is no Palestinian existence. And so the response needs to match the words and actions of this Israeli government, and that's what we will be working on, whether immediately in the Security Council, the General Assembly, and among states, or at the June conference, where you will see the entire world come together. And I expect, until now, that given where the Israeli government is, It's not in agreement with any of the fundamental rules of international law or the fundamental premise of peace in our region. There are decisions of international legitimacy on which we all concur, Arabs and non-Arabs. The entire world has an international consensus on the two-state solution, on a Palestinian state, independent and viable, living side by side with Israel on the 6th June 1967 borders, on the 4th of June 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital. The fundamental principles of peace, Israel is not willing even to come close to them. That doesn't mean the world needs to change and adapt to Israeli crimes and Israeli extremism ideology. It means the world needs to enact a change in Israel whereby such policies by such Israeli governments will come to an end.
Maybe one last question.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
Sorry, there was, sorry.
Ambassador Shihab, in your national capacity, UAE has a large footprint in Gaza in the humanitarian side and medical assistance. With the trickle of the couple of drops came through the aid that's been transferred, how is the situation for UAE humanitarian mission operating in Gaza, both on medical supplies and on aid substance?
Look, obviously, I'm not here to speak about the UAE. We're here as representatives of the entire Arab group. But I will say that, of course, the UAE uses all its channels in order to get as much humanitarian assistance into Gaza. We have been a huge provider of humanitarian assistance. We've been operating field hospitals, desalination plants, and these efforts have never stopped, and we will continue to work to scale up humanitarian assistance in every way that we can and through every channel that we can. Thank you.
Who is funding the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation?
I don't have an answer to that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ambassador Magid, please.